All right, everybody. Thanks for hanging in there with me. I'm trying something new tonight. I decided that I wanted to do like just a hangout, right? Because like it's icy outside here and there's just, there's only so much stuff you can do. You know, we're beyond the season. And I was just like, you know what? Let's just hold a stream. Let's see if anybody wants to come on and just talk a little dogs football. And if you do, then we'll have a good time. We'll hang out for a little while. And I was trying to stream to the multiple platforms. So everything, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the places. And here we are. It seems like everything's working except for Instagram. So we will see what I'm going to have to do to get that regulated for the next time. But hopefully everything's showing up right. I'm going to do my best to keep an eye on all of these streams, like the chats. And if you have questions, then we'll jump into them from there. But it looks like, yeah, it looks like there are questions just all over the place here. So we'll see how it's going. And if anybody has anything, bear with me. We'll try to get to them as soon as possible. So anyways, here we are. Georgia is set, essentially, looking ahead to the 2026 season. Now that the transfer portal is over, now that the 2025 recruiting class is signed, sealed, delivered on campus, first we had the mid-year enrollees, and now we have the guys who waited and didn't come in until after the playoffs were over, but they're all on campus. We haven't heard any reports of anyone not showing up or anything like that. So the roster for 2026 is set. And this last week on the podcast, I took the opportunity to sort of close the book on the 2025 season. And not too many people have gone and watched that video yet. So if you haven't, I would encourage you to do so because it frames up everything that the 2025 season was. And, you know, we will get into 2026, but I wanted to completely close 2025 off first before we did that. So that's done. If you haven't seen that video, I hope you'll go check it out. And if you have seen it, then, you know, drop me a comment and let me know what you think, because that's one of those things that I just didn't feel right talking about 26 until we put 25 to bed. But 26 is coming. Rest assured, we're going to talk about all the things. We're going to talk about the position breakdowns, the addition of new coaches, the shuffling on the coaching staff, what recruiting is looking like for 2026 once we get to that part. And if there happens to be a late addition through the transfer portal, because remember, players have to enter the transfer portal by a certain date, but they can sign with schools for a while. So I don't foresee that there are going to be any late additions to the Dogs team, but if that happens, we'll cover that too. So yeah, we are just jumping on here. I'm just going to see what's going on and see who's in here. It looks like people are actually checking in on TikTok. Thanks for showing up. We don't usually do this. If this goes well over there, it might be something that we do more going forward. But we're going to figure it out because this is the broadest stream set that we have ever done. But tonight is really about you guys. I'm not showing up with any sort of rundown, no planned topics to discuss. If we can talk about the weather if y'all want to, how's it going wherever you are. We can talk about anything you want to talk about regarding the 25 or the 26 season, however you want to look at it. Like I said, the coaching changes, transfer portal, how all that shook out. Anything that you guys are feeling good about, we'll get into it. But y'all got to bear with me because I got to try to manage these streams and I have to look at what's going on in terms of the chat. So it looks like some of our regulars are here over on YouTube. I see there he is. There's Josh Farrell. Hey, good to see you back in here, friend. Steele is in here with us tonight. Tim is in here. That's awesome. Appreciate you guys hanging out with us for a little while. Oh, look, even our friends from way off sides are over here checking out what we're doing. That's cool. I appreciate that, guys. Thanks for being here, Jeff. The Governor's Bulldogs is in here with us too. And that is what's happening over on YouTube. Now, like I said, we are streaming across all the platforms, which is new and different for us. So don't be shy if you happen to be over on TikTok and you have something you want to say. jump on in here and let us know. And if you're not, that's okay too. Enrique's in here. What's up, buddy? It's good to see you jump in here and drop a comment. I appreciate it. Again, tonight is let's take your questions. Let's take your questions. Let's talk about all the things that are on your mind, because each week I show up and I talk about whatever it is I have going on. But I'd love to know what you guys are thinking about. Man, as far as we're concerned, has anybody else been like I thought we were going to have some weather, and I got excited because I'm like, hey, that means we get to do some creative stuff. So I was in the kitchen the last couple of days. Man, I've made so far in the run up, and then yesterday I have made chili, and then I made a big crock pot of beef stew. So that's going on. We had sausage balls this morning for the girls. And we had cinnamon rolls. So we had a good breakfast. We've had some good stuff in the crock pot over the last couple of days. We got ice out on the trees on the deck. As I look out the window here, I can see everything's hanging a little bit lower than usual. So I hope everybody's staying safe and warm out there if you are dealing with any of this stuff. And it would help us out, if you're on YouTube or Facebook or wherever, share the stream. Let everybody know we're here, because we are going to be here for a little while. As long as you guys have questions, as long as you guys have something you're interested in and you'd like to talk about it, then we will get to it. I'm going to do something here. Y'all just bear with me. There we go. Drop that in there. Now we're in good shape. All right. So let's see what's going on. What's in the chat? What do we have over here? What do we have so far? Oh, yeah, man. Good to see you, Josh. Again, happy you could make it. That's what I kind of figured, honestly, is that most people are going to be at home. I mean, I could care less, honestly, about the NFL. So I figured I'd jump on here and say what's up. I'm not used to having to sip water and stuff while we're on here, because I usually do things a little different way, but here we are. So appreciate y'all being here with us. What's in the chat? What do we got going on? Everybody's saying hello. I appreciate that. I see you there, Tim. Tim's talking about how he doesn't like to be cooped up with all the weather. I can appreciate that. Steele is asking, what is it that I think about the 2026 schedule? And I will talk about this a lot more, in the coming weeks for sure. But at first blush, I have to say that it looks like a schedule that's manageable for Georgia. I mean, I never like to just count chickens before they're hatched, but when you look at who they're playing, where they're playing them, when, and what the Dogs are bringing back, all that kind of stuff, then you were talking about a team that is probably looking at something in the neighborhood of 11-1. I think there's a real possibility that they could go undefeated against this schedule. With that said, and again, that's taken into account everything before the transfer portal. I have not looked at it since the transfer portal edition. So if we're talking about Alabama or whoever might be on the schedule, that's just one of those things where I'm going to have to take a deeper dive and look. But at first glance, this looks like a schedule that Georgia can absolutely make hay against. Now, I'm looking here because I think I may have the schedule. We can all look at it together. See if I can find it here. I know I had it up earlier because right off the top of my head, it's hard to remember exactly who we play and when. So if I can locate that, we'll put it up. Here we go. Let's take a look real quick and see here. So if you're looking at starting off the season, that's Tennessee State. So clearly that should be a win. They're just going to be outmanned. Western Kentucky, you would expect a similar situation there. So that would be 2-0. Then they have to play Arkansas, and that looks like a road game. if I'm seeing that right. So they're going to take on the new head coach and the new look Razorbacks in week 3. Even regardless of whatever happened in the portal there, I would expect that that's a game that Georgia should be able to go on the road and win. Then they welcome in Oklahoma, which will be exciting. Now, again, Mateer is back. Beyond that, I don't really know what's up with Oklahoma, so I'm going to have to take a harder look at that one before I can actually give an opinion. But and I understand that Norman can be a difficult place to play. So I don't want to count any chickens right there. Vanderbilt is going to be coming to Athens the next week. I would imagine that in that game, we're probably going to see Mr. Jared Curtis. I assume that's why he went to Vanderbilt, is because they essentially have told him, we're going to ride with you. We're going to grow with you. And that's why he stayed home. That and the fact that he's from Nashville. So that'll be an interesting game because Vanderbilt has been, a little bit better in recent years, and Georgia hasn't faced them. So that'll be an interesting thing to take a look at on that front, but also because of the Jared Curtis thing, because it's one of those things where they hold on one second. No. It's one of those things where he went there to play early. Obviously, he's in his hometown. Obviously, he's going to be well compensated, but it's just one of those things that if it's not him, I'll be a little shocked, honestly. Hold on one second. Kinsley, come here. Come here. You don't want to come on? Okay. So my daughter was in the room. She was checking to see if she could say hello. She can if she wants to, but I'm not sure she wants to. All right. So then they go on to October 10th where they'll play Alabama. Now, clearly this game is always tough. It just is. I know 3 weeks ago when I was listening to my Alabama friends talk about the upcoming season, they had real doubts about what that was going to be. They didn't know exactly what their team was going to look like because of so much movement in the portal. But here the last week or so, I've seen them show a little more confidence in what the staff was doing. There's been some coaching changes, so I think the vibe is pretty good for my Alabama people right about now. And that game's always tough. It just is. I mean, these are two teams that are having the last few years been built similarly, so it's styles clashing. It's going to be a big matchup. It's going to have everybody's attention. And it will absolutely be a tough road game. So if Georgia can go there and get that win, that'll be a big deal just because it's a tough win on the road in the conference. Now, Auburn comes over here and they too have a new head coach, which that's always going to be interesting. It's, you never know what you're going to get with them until you get it. But, they like the new head coach that they brought in. They like the pieces that they brought in around him, the new quarterback and things like that. So optimism will be abounding in Auburn. And then the next week, of course, at Halloween, we go down and play the Gators in Florida. They have a new head coach. It's hard to know exactly too much about him yet. I mean, Georgia should still be favored there, I would imagine. Ole Miss on the road for the Dogs. I mean, after, the loss this year in the Sugar Bowl, that'll be something I'm sure all the fans will be pointing to. We will see exactly what Ole Miss looks like right there because they've got so much stuff going on with LSU and just their roster and all of that. So it'll be interesting to see where they are. Then we get Missouri back on the schedule, which I think Georgia should probably win that one, but we'll see. South Carolina, eternally optimistic. They are the third team. I refer to them as the third team in Georgia's, I don't know how we're referring to it, continual opponents, natural opponents, rivals, whatever you want to call it. So we're going to see the Gamecocks every year for the next few years, and that's pretty interesting. So that one, I think Georgia would get the win there too, even though it's on the road. And yes, I know South Carolina thinks they're going to be, good. They feel that way every year. We'll see. Georgia Tech has spent a lot of money here in the transfer portal this year. They brought in some new talented pieces. They're having to replace, some big pieces too, Haynes King and others. So Georgia Tech is always a tough game at the end of the year. So as I see it, a quick run through the schedule, I would put Georgia looking at potentially a 10-2 team. I think that there's a very real chance they could go undefeated. If you cut it, down the middle and play it safe, you can say 11-1. So I think the Dogs would be doing pretty good there in 26 still. So I hope that sort of frames it up for you a little bit. But like I said, I'll have plenty to talk about regarding that moving forward. I see some good recipes here in the chat. That's pretty cool. Let's see. Tim from Facebook. Let's see how this shows up if we throw it on the screen. Tim says he's sort of concerned about the offensive and defensive lines coming into 26. So here's how I feel about it, Tim. And I posted this over on Facebook a couple of days ago. The defensive line for Georgia in 2026 will have 6 former 5-star players on it. 6. Not to mention the addition of Amaris Williams coming off the edge with a pass rush. There are no excuses for Georgia's defensive line in 2026. I understand rankings don't mean a hill of beans. I got that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that when you recruit these guys, you bring them into your program, you coach them up, you trust them, then you have to hope that they're going to live up to their billing, whatever you deem that to be when you brought them into your program. And there are players that this staff deemed as really good that are going to have the opportunity to play in 26, and they need to show up and play that way. So the defensive line, I do not really have concerns about there. I think even the depth pieces there are good. So I think that's the kind of thing that Georgia they are in a good spot. Xavier McLeod, another depth piece who chose to come back that is not among those 5 stars that I mentioned before. So the defensive line should not be a point of concern for Georgia. And remember, this Georgia Bulldogs team in 2025 held opponents to 70 some odd yards rushing per game, right? They were in the top 4 in the nation at the end of the year as far as that was concerned. So it's really cool that they have decided to put an emphasis there. And it's not an emphasis as much as it is a culmination of what they've been building toward, right? They've been recruiting and acquiring these players through the portal and other manners, and now they're here. They need to show up and play that way. As far as the offensive line is concerned, I talked about that today, and it's the kind of thing where I say I talk about it today. Here is where I talked about it. Let's do this. Check out my new graphics. That's right. I talked about it over on How About Them Fucking Dogs Plus, and that is our private podcast. I post at least once a week. I do my very best to post over there at least once a week. And over there, you're going to get stuff you're not going to get on the YouTube channel. You're going to get stuff over there you're not going to get in my short form stuff on TikTok or Instagram. It's a different, much more in-depth look at things. And today I posted a new podcast over there where I was talking about the transfer portal and how that looks. And essentially, at the end of the day, what it comes down to is Georgia's in pretty good shape along the offensive line, but they did make a choice. They didn't really pursue depth at the tackle position, and they've lost enough people over the last year or two at the offensive line where, yes, there are bodies there, but eventually those bodies, you start to run out. I mean, and they acquired one person through the portal this year. They're going to be thin at tackle from the looks of it. If it pans out, Georgia's going to be contending for a title. If it doesn't, if they have injuries, if for whatever reason Juan Gaston can't move out there and handle a tackle position week in and week out, then Georgia's going to they could have some issues there. That could be a problem. That's one of the biggest keys to this entire season is how will Georgia do on the offensive line? They've got the other 4 positions locked down. They're in good shape. They've got depth, but that tackle position, they got to find who their starter is, and then they got to hope that they stay healthy. That's how that's going to go. Okay. So, Tim, I hope that answers your question. The Governor's Bulldogs says the 2 topics he's going to be on all offseason are the pass rush and the wide receiver play. Well, those are definitely points that we have to look at. There's no doubt about that. No doubt about that. Well, hello, Kinsley. Kinsley, they said hello, baby. So anytime you want to come wave, it's fine. Yeah, tonight with all the family being here and everybody staying around, the doors are open. So if the kiddos walk in here, that's what it'll be. They'll walk in here and say hello, but they're doing their best to understand what it is we got going on over here. Let's see. Enrique, yes, I'm not sure if he's going to win that or not. If you want to wave, baby, come on in and wave. I'm not sure about Chambliss. Obviously, I'd heard he got denied. I know that that's still in litigation, so he'll see, whatever he's going to try to stick around as long as he can, but I'm not sure he'll be able to. We'll see. There's Kinsley. There she is. Hi, Carol. Good to see you make it in here. What else is going on over here in the chat? Yeah, Tim, no problem, bud. That's why we're here. And again, if anybody had, anything else specific you want to talk about, let it fly. Let's see what we got going on. I am, again, trying to keep track of all these various chats and things. So if I miss something, apologies. Got to figure out the Instagram thing, though. The others are working pretty good, it looks like. So I appreciate that. I'm happy it's looking the way it's supposed to look. All right. But yeah, I'm not somebody, the NFL game's on the screen up here, and I care much more about this later game than I did that earlier game. But, I'm not stopping what I'm doing for the NFL. That's just not how I get down these days. Has something to do, I'm sure, with the fact that I'm a Raiders fan, and they've been bad for 20 years. So there you go. Josh, let's see here. Josh, what you got, bud? Josh says, can we talk about the little movement in the portal with receivers? Now, Josh, I presume you mean the fact that Georgia did not acquire 2 or 3, a bundle, right? That one, in my view, is pretty straightforward. They wanted someone, they knew they needed a piece. And if they could get something that they really liked, they were going to take that too. So they went out, they got the X receiver in Canyon from Georgia Tech, whom a lot of people who are familiar with the program and some talent assessors, and I know some of y'all are going to throw your hands up when I say this, they liken him to Cam Coleman. And you're like, well, he's not Cam Coleman, and he played at Georgia Tech. But they see him that way. And they see him as someone who could continue to grow and become a player in that mold because he's the same sort of build. Now, am I saying that? No, I'm not overly familiar with the young man. I've watched him play, and he seems to fit what Georgia's going to need him to do at the X position. So the staff obviously believes in him. They think he can come in and play right away. So Canyon is a guy that they're going to lean on. If he's a miss, then that's on, the staff for their evaluation, and we can talk about that when it happens. But for now, they think they've got what they need at that position. So Canyon is what it is. And they went after Trey Richardson, who wound up signing with Louisville. And Richardson would have been a really good pickup. He was an impact player, a bit of a slot guy, another one of those him kind of guys where you get him touches and then try to let him do things after the catch, right? So kind of like Zachariah Branch, not comparing the two, but he's that sort of player. But he chose to not come to Georgia. That's the way it is in this quasi free agent world that we have now in college football. So I am not overly concerned about somebody who chooses to not come here. As far as what that means for the rest of the room, there are, I think I did a count the other day. It's something like 6 or 7 wide receivers currently on the University of Georgia roster that are 4 stars or higher. So yes, there's 5-star, at least one in that group. And the thing about that is just because you and I don't know them, haven't seen them a lot, doesn't mean they can't play. It just means Georgia felt they had better options for whatever reason. The thing is, the money's on the table for this coaching staff when it comes to the wide receivers. They have made their evaluations. They really like who they have in the room, which is why they were not more active in the portal. And now those guys have to go justify that belief in them on Saturdays in the fall. So we're talking about Sokovie White-Hilton, who I think is going to be a really good football player for Georgia. Talon Taylor, C.J. Wiley, the freshman Ryan Mosley, guys Craig Dandridge, Tyler Williams. There are a lot of players there that this coaching staff clearly thinks a lot of, and these are guys that they paid to retain. So this fits into the larger philosophy of what Georgia and Kirby Smart try to do in the transfer portal. They don't suffer from FOMO. They go in with a purpose and strategically pay guys that they think can make their roster better right now. That's what they did with this wide receiver group, because I promise you that in the world of college football as we know it today, there were people reaching out to all of these guys to come and play for them, but Georgia kept them all. Now they have to go produce. So I think that is a lot of what was going on there. And yes, Tim, it does. It looks like they have been building toward that depth. And again, outside of offensive tackle, when you look at the defensive side of the ball, they have secured the back end of that defense. The linebacker room still one of the best in the country. I've already talked about the defensive line. The quarterback room is deep and talented. We just talked about the wide receivers. The running back room is deep and talented, and another position where they retained the players that they wanted. And the only real question from where I sit, well, I think there are two big questions. Can Gunner be more consistent and in how he plays or when he plays at an elite level? Because there were times this year when he was as good as anybody in the country. If he can do that consistently, then Georgia is better than good at the quarterback position. And the only other question would be that tackle position on the offensive line. So they are a little thin there at tackle. That could be a real point of issue for Georgia if somebody gets hurt. So hopefully that is not in the Dogs' future as far as that's concerned. Yeah, me too. Me too, Josh. I hope they're right about what's in that receiver room, because again, they are chips to the table. They are, they think they really like what they've got. They really like what they've got. If you haven't seen them, go back and look here on YouTube or over on TikTok. I think they also live on Instagram. Go find all of my short form videos of all those wide receivers during practice back in December when we got to go see the team before they went down for the Sugar Bowl. You'll see there's skill in that room. The thing is, most fans just don't know who it is because they haven't had an opportunity to see them. But you did see Talon Taylor, C.J. Wiley. You saw Sokovie White this year. So there are guys there. You're bringing back London Humphreys. They've got players. It's just now they have to show up, catch the ball when it's thrown to them, and be playmakers after the fact. Let's see. Governor's Bulldogs is asking about pass rush. Let's hit on that. Well, when I look back at what happened in 2025, the things that I thought were going to happen showed themselves. So when we headed into the year, we had, Gabe Harris and Q. And then you're like, well, who else is going to get it done, or where else will they get help from? And I pointed you to the fact that you have the young guys like Elijah Griffin, who hopefully will grow, mature, and learn to get that push in the middle, right? If we were really lucky, we would have seen Isaiah Gibson, which we really didn't have the opportunity to. But he, according to what I was hearing, was really, really close to seeing more snaps. But situationally, it didn't work out. Whereas Zayden Walker showed up in the middle of the year, all the way back to, say, like the Ole Miss game, the first one. they had a package to get him in the game. And then we saw him against Mississippi State, and we saw him against Texas. And that's a guy that is going to really sort of fill into that Walker role, Jalen Walker role, where you see him as he's a middle linebacker, but he's a natural pass rusher. So you're going to see him fall into that off the edge pass rush guy in situations like we saw against Mississippi State and against Texas. So Zayden's coming back. That guy's really going to be effective. You mentioned Amaris Williams, who I think is an impact player from day one. He immediately slots into the rotation with Gabe Harris and Q Johnson on the edge. And again, depending on how they use him and which packages they go with, it won't surprise me in the least if you see them move Amaris down inside to a wide 3 technique or something like that. And then you also have Q and Gabe and potentially Zay on the field all at the same time in their, rabbit packages or whatever, where they're getting after the quarterback on clear passing downs. So I think there is a plan in place. Exactly how it looks, we'll see. But there's no doubt that they still need to have players like Griffin and Xavier McLeod continue to come along and push the pocket from the middle. Because, and again, this is where people sometimes get lost, because they get wrapped up in, we don't have one dude who's flying off the edge and just wrecking things like Jarvis Jones, right? Because that dude's not there. Sometimes people just don't see what else is happening. But again, it depends on what you're doing, who you're playing. Are you trying to mush rush? Are you trying to keep them in the pocket? Or are you actually winning on first and second down so you can get after the passer on third? All these things matter. And that back end, let's be honest, the first half of last year was not good enough to allow you to do some of the things that maybe you wanted to do in the second half of the year with regard to the pass rush. But then you flip it around and look at how Georgia played against Alabama in the SEC championship game. A lot of single man coverage on the back end, and they were moving people in the pass rush game to get after Ty Simpson and make his life more difficult. So, it's always a progression. It's never going to look right in game one. And if they build it along, I think they have the pieces in place to have an effective pass rush. Are they going to have a guy show up and get 10 sacks this year? No, I doubt it. That's probably not going to happen. If it does happen, then Georgia's probably going to be far and away a national championship favorite. But I don't expect that to happen. But I think they'll have what they need. All this talking, my throat is dry over here. I appreciate y'all bearing with me. Okay. Appreciate you, Josh. Says, what does the addition of Bryson Beaver do to the quarterback room? Well, it makes it full, that's for sure, because you mentioned Puglisi, Montgomery, and Melander, but you didn't mention Colton Ginn, who can flat spin the football as a walk-on, but that young man is a good football player. You obviously have Gunner there. It adds depth and upside if Beaver decides to stick around, right? Because again, he's a true freshman, so he's coming in. He's got plenty of time to get acclimated, learn all those things, but he's mobile. He's got a very live arm, and he can make plays off schedule. So he's the kind of guy that once he understands what to do with football inside the system that Georgia wants to run, then we'll really get a peg on exactly, what he looks like. Georgia, the thing about the quarterback position and every position is they are going to year over year go try to recruit the very best player that they believe they have a shot at. That's what they did with Curtis, and they had him in the boat twice, and then ultimately he doesn't come to Athens. So when you look ahead to 27 and 28, Georgia is already offering, recruiting those number one quarterbacks as well. So the room is constantly going to be moving. The bottom line is who decides to stick around before the end of the year. So back in October, back in November, I was pointing to Gunner saying, well, if for whatever reason he is not back in Athens, the only question that's going to matter is going to be the quarterback battle between Montgomery and Puglisi. And then whoever wins, will the other one transfer out? And just sticking my finger in the wind and seeing that, okay, everybody wants to assume Puglisi would be the next guy. Fine. I was really concerned about Montgomery leaving for a place like, say, Indiana. So in that instance, I don't think you would have kept them both. Now that Gunner's back, we know that Puglisi is number 2 in 25, but I talked about this in a recent short form video. Montgomery's finally healthy. He spent this entire year, rehabbing and get back to full speed with his injured knee. He's a guy who is a mobile player and can also throw the ball. I think he's a really nice quarterback. I believe there could be a very real battle at quarterback for the number 2 position heading into 2026. If Puglisi holds off Montgomery, then we're right back in that position that we would have been in that I was talking about before. Will Montgomery stick around to be a backup? If Montgomery wins, will Puglisi stick around? I think those things are things that have to be considered, because I'm just not sure that they're going to, at the end of the day, keep them all. Because Millender's still there. He's an athlete. He could have gone to play at Boise State. He chose to come and play in Athens because he wanted to get developed. He wanted to see a pro-style offense. If he reads the writing on the wall eventually and sees he might not get a shot, well, then he might head out. I don't think Ginn would be a guy that would transfer out. He's a Georgia guy. He wanted to come to Georgia. But, you only get so many years to play quarterback in college, so he might. And then Beaver clearly is years, away from making that decision, one would imagine. But this year, Georgia needed a quarterback in this class after Curtis bounced, and that's who they filled the slot with, was Beaver. Who knows? Next year, he might look at the Georgia room and say, well, just like the Oregon room, it's too deep, and I don't want to battle through all these guys. And he might be in the portal again next year. But for this year, he's a depth piece and a future piece with a high ceiling. So it'll be interesting how they manage it, but they won't stop trying to get the best players to come in. That's for sure. Let me take a look over here at TikTok and see what we got. What do we got? He's talking about Curtis. All dogs in here. Appreciate you being here. He says, I think Curtis plays 2 years at Vandy, hits the portal, and gets paid max. Well, could be. The thing we're seeing about some of these guys is they are absolutely driven, by what they can make right now. There seems to be a very short-sighted view when it comes to these sorts of things. And it just makes me always question who these guys have representing them or talking to them, getting in their ear. Because when you go, and you can look up this information, it's available on the portal, where there were something like still, almost 2,000 people in the portal as of a week ago. And there aren't places for these young men to go play. Those slots have been filled either with high school recruits or transfers from other schools. And now you just got people who've thrown their opportunity to play college football out the window because somebody told them that the portal was a good move. So it's not always a good move. You have to be careful. But if you're a quarterback, odds are you have infinite lives, because people will always say, well, you can make us better. You might not be the next Heisman Trophy winner, but you can make us better. And they'll bring them in, and I posted, again, a little while back about some of the big retentions that Georgia had. And I listed Gunner Stockton among them. And people said, well, he was never going to go pro. Okay, that might be true. And next year when he does become eligible, and decides to enter the draft, maybe he's a 4th, 5th, 6th round draft pick. Who knows? That's not the point. He chose to come back for 2 reasons that's important. One, Georgia likes what they had. He was their starter this year. I don't think you're going to see anybody beat him out that's currently on the roster. So Georgia gets to maintain their stability at that position moving into year 2. So that's good for Georgia. If you're Gunner Stockton, it's not that you were going to leave for the draft, but it's that somebody else could come and pay you to leave Georgia. And I know there are people out there who say that would not happen. He loves Georgia. He would never leave. Listen, say that if you want. But if another school doubles whatever Georgia has signed him to, then if you're right that he's not going to be an NFL draft pick, his opportunity to maximize his earning potential is right now. So why not listen to whoever might offer him something in the transfer portal to come and be their guy? Just saying, if it's about money, right? Then there you go. Think about how many cows or F-150s that could buy Gunner if somebody did that. The bottom line here was Georgia had to treat him fairly. If they treated him fairly, he was going to stay. And by all indications, that's what happens, right? He believes he's being compensated fairly. He wants to be at Georgia. He's at Georgia. That's that story. Anything beyond that, though, I think is, sometimes people just want to take a shot at Gunner and say, well, he's not NFL worthy. Doesn't have to be. Not in today's college football. All he has to be is better than who somebody else has. And they can upgrade the quarterback position, and they will pay for that. So there you go. I mean, he did finish 7th in the Heisman. Something to consider. He was a Manning Award finalist. It's not like the kid can't play quarterback. It's just, people want to see it however they want to see it. And that's fine. But just because we see it a certain way doesn't mean that everyone else sees it that way. And yeah, Carol, the portal is, you got to be careful who you're listening to. That's for sure. No doubt about that. See who I'm missing. I feel like I'm definitely missing comments somewhere, but we'll see. The cool thing about the Facebook one is it shows up on my feed here, so I don't feel so bad about that. But the one here on TikTok doesn't necessarily. So if you're watching on TikTok, I appreciate you. And thanks for checking in. And we're just talking about, whatever you want to know. So if you have questions, drop them in the chat. I'll share my opinion. And you probably noticed here on the screen, I've got a new little, I've got some ice creeping in on the view here. So I thought that was pretty funny. Seeing as how that's why I'm doing this stream in the first place. Unless everybody likes it. If y'all like it, if y'all like seeing us over here on TikTok and all these places, let me know. Because if I don't see that people are enjoying it, there's no point in working to make it happen. We'll just hang out over here on YouTube. But if you guys like it, I'm all for it. We'll show up and get it done. Let's see. Yeah, Gunner did fine. 12-2. He should be proud. I mean, he's a 2-time SEC champion. He's been the QB1 at his favorite school, right? He is living the dream in every way possible. And again, as long as they were fair to him, he was going to be in Athens. But that's the bottom line. You have to be fair to these people. So that is the college football that we live in. And people don't want to, they want to be angry about it. But there's no point in being angry about it. Like, just is what it is, man. Just is what it is. I see we have, man, cool. This is awesome. We have 20 thumbs up on the stream. I appreciate that. Currently, only 16 of y'all are in here with me. So somehow that math is mathing, even though I don't understand it. And yeah, Governors Bulldogs, people do completely just take for granted what's going on with the success that Georgia is having under Kirby Smart. There is another project that I'm working on, and I know if you follow the channel, if you follow any of my socials, any of that stuff, you're like, another project, Randy? Really? Yeah, I have another project. So what can I say? I'm an overachiever. But here's the thing. I have another project that I'm working on where I really take a hard look at what Kirby has built in Athens and how he's done it. And I'm not talking about who he recruits. I'm not talking about who he hires. I'm not talking about the fact that he, has did it in a way that someone else has never done it before. but it is a completely different perspective on what Kirby Smart is doing in Athens, how and why. And when that project comes together, I'm very excited about it. And I will be reaching out to those of you who are in the community who might be interested in such things. So, as an example, if you happen to be someone who subscribes to the How About Them Dogs Plus podcast, you would be someone that would have the first opportunity to see this new project. If you are a channel member over on YouTube, that might be something that you will have an early opportunity to see. And I'm really excited about it. I really hope to have it ready by the time we get toward the season here in 2026. But I'm having to pull it all together, and that just takes time. So there's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes before you can show up with something. But if you subscribe to the channel, if you are a member of the channel here on YouTube, if you subscribe to the private podcast, then you will be among that group of community members that will see this project first. And it is a big deal. I am super excited about it. And I can't wait to share it because I believe that you will view it as something that is super cool, just the way I do. Because again, it's not in any way anything that you get anywhere else. So very excited about that. So big tease, hang that out there. And again, just watch this space because when I have something to share, I will absolutely share it with you. Absolutely share it with you. Let's see. Whoa. Cool. New long chat jumped in here. So hang on. Let me open this up so I can read it a little bit better. First, before we get to that, Steele asks if he's a Heisman finalist. That's an interesting question because, I mean, obviously this year you had a Heisman Trophy winner that had good numbers, but not crazy numbers, and I don't know. I would have to look them up, but I think Mendoza finished with 2,800 yards passing. Obviously Indiana was undefeated. I know he had some rushing yards in there. He had the big comeback against Penn State for sure. So he was a really good player on an undefeated team, and he won the thing. So when I look at 26, I think about, could Georgia be in a similar spot? I've already mentioned that I believe the opportunity is there for them to go undefeated. Okay, so if they do that, clearly you would imagine that Gunner's going to be in that conversation. I mean, this year when the Dogs got down toward November, they played like Mississippi State. Kirby was actually having to field questions from the media about Gunner and his Heisman candidacy and all that. And Georgia's never going to have a campaign for a guy. That's not what Kirby does. So that's not going to happen. So if Gunner's going to be recognized, that second year of familiarity would be a benefit to him. He has, it's like Governor was just mentioned, he has great tape from 25, the throw against Tennessee, the performance against Ole Miss, the performance against Texas. He's got moments that people can point to in front of big audiences and say, well, look, he got it done when the lights were the brightest. But then those same people could choose to look at and say, well, but they didn't advance beyond the Sugar Bowl. Was that his fault? Was it somebody else? And that brings me back to his consistency. So if Georgia is 11-1 or 12-0, and Gunner's having the kind of season he had this year or better, which you have to assume is going to be a possibility, because when you look at Georgia's offense, they return the entire running back room. They've added pieces at wide receiver, and they've got young guys they believe in. And the tight ends should just be a weapon that really nobody can stop, okay? The mismatches are crazy. If they're used, they should be unstoppable. So, plus you've got Gunner's ability to run. So everything is there for him. Georgia can be successful. He can put up the same kind of numbers he put up this year or better. And there's no reason that he shouldn't be involved in the conversation. His performance in 25 hopefully will set the stage so that people would talk about him that way heading into the year, which they didn't do heading into 25. Remember, heading into 25, people had him rated out of all the teams in the league. He was in the bottom third easily of quarterback prospects inside the conference. And everybody was just flat wrong. They had DJ Lagway up there. They had Manning up there. They had all these other quarterbacks ahead of him. But at the end of the day, it was Trinidad Chambliss and it was Gunnar Stockton who wound up being probably QB 1 and 2 inside the conference in 25. So you take what he's already done, that changes the way he enters 26, and then you consider everything I just said there, then the opportunity should be that he would be considered as a potential finalist. Absolutely. If he plays the full year, if they figure out that tackle position and, he's not getting sacked 3-4 times a game, then there you go. I mean, I think everything is in front of him to at least make it to New York next year. But it's not just one of those things where he's going to put up 5,000 yards passing. It's not like a shoe in, you know what I mean? Like it's not one of those things where he's just going to rattle it off. He is going to be a guy on a team that gets it done. Because if you look at the rest of Georgia's roster, I don't think there's nobody we can point to and say he's going to take votes away from Gunnar, right? It would be Gunnar Stockton if there's a Heisman candidate for Georgia next year. If it's not him, then we are all in for a surprise, and Georgia's probably going to be a whole lot better than any of us thinks. It's one of those things where he's the guy. So I think that could happen, and I would be excited that it does go that way. Oh, wait a minute. All right, I got to get back in this chat here because I have missed some stuff, and I appreciate y'all putting some stuff in the chat. I usually don't lean on it the way I'm leaning on it right now, but this is a different kind of show. This is a different kind of thing. So let's see. Tim over on Facebook. This is big. I don't know if I can put it on the screen. We'll see how it looks. Let's see if we can read it here. Oh, it's too little. All right, well, I'll leave it up there. I'll try to read it over here. It says, not to appear negative, I'm a dog fan, but even if we were 0-12, but you can't throw the ball, run the ball, etc. if you're laying on your back. That's right. They make their own mistakes. Must have a few seconds of blocking. Correct. I'm not inferring we were terrible in 25 on the O-line, but in previous years they've been better in recent years. Go back to your initial comment about your concerns. Right. And that's the thing that I think people, especially people who want to throw stones at Bobo. Okay. I think the offensive line is something that fits in there because keep in mind, this year's team was replacing 4 of their 5 offensive linemen. And they had a lot of work to do. And you saw that over the first part of the year because you had Gaston and Glover trying to figure out where they were going to play. Their missed block, you could argue, cost Georgia the Alabama game. So they had to figure it out and come together, right? But I think they did toward the end of the year. And there were moments where they looked completely dominant. So it's one of those things where they just had to get better and overcome it as they went. The year before, it was injuries that really caused them a problem. So, it's every year's its own puzzle to try to figure out. And I thought they handled it pretty well. Again, I think this year's group is going to be good. They've grown up their experience. That tackle position is going to be the point of interest for me. So do I think Scott's asking if I think Kirby mismanaged the clock on that last drive of the Sugar Bowl. Now, here's an interesting take on this. I, as a football mind, looked at that and said, well, they should have run the clock down and then kicked the field goal. That's what I would have done. I would have taken my shots at the end zone. I would have tried to score, but at the very least, I would have given, say, Gunnar an option, to tuck it and run or whatever. And that would have potentially run the clock down a little bit further. And I probably would have had the field goal in my back pocket, right? But it's not a surprise that Georgia handled it the way they did. I still think he mismanaged the clock, even if he's doing what he wants by his philosophy, which is play to win the game. And you can go back and watch his presser. He'll tell you exactly why he did what he did. And essentially it comes down to his idea that he is going to make a play to win the game and not play for overtime. But even with that, I think the way they went about it left too much time on the clock and permitted Mississippi to have a better opportunity than they would have had otherwise. So I agree. All right. Sorry, y'all. Throat. Yeah, the Heisman. I've had issues with the Heisman for a lot of years. Oh, our resident LSU fan is in here talking about how he's also a Broncos fan. Well, Citrus, see, here's the thing. It's all right. It's all right. Here's the thing. I both identify, I feel you, and at the same time, as a Raiders fan, I'm like, it's the Broncos. So, but I do hate that your team went down. That was a tough break losing your quarterback too. I didn't really get to watch that game. I think, did I see a highlight that Stidham had a big pass early or something for a score maybe? With a missed field goal somewhere in there too. But yeah, the NFL is they're playing it out here. I don't even know where the second game is being played. Is that on like NBC? I don't know. I haven't changed the channel. It's all right. Bandit's in here. Good to see you, friend. Good to see you. I don't have a hard time believing it at all, Governor. That Texas fans think they're going to win it all. Not at all. I buy that 1,000%. 1,000%. The wide receivers. Yep. Bandit's talking about the wide receivers. And Bandit, I don't guess you were in here, but we addressed that a little bit earlier. Essentially, I mean, it's, chips to the center of the table because the staff filled the spot in the transfer portal with the guy that they really wanted. So that worked out for them. They got an X receiver. They think he's going to be able to do what they want him to do. They think he has big upside. They swung and missed on a slot guy who went to Louisville. But beyond that, they really, really like who they have in the room. So the evaluations are on the line right there. What they wanted to do, is the kind of thing that they executed on, and we will just see if they think, or if the guys back them up and make them right, if they perform to the level that they need to perform to have Georgia be competitive. Baby, all right, it's okay. It's okay. It's all right. Well, you're right, Governor. They don't have to play Georgia, and that matters. Let's see what else. Yeah, Hewley choosing to leave. I mean, I totally get it, but that one surprised me. Oh, thanks. You guys are listening. I appreciate that. The game's on Fox, huh? Let's see. I don't know. I don't know if I can get the thing to switch for me or not. We'll see. I'll tell you what though. This between the two games, and I'm not interested really. But this was the one I was more interested in for sure. Yeah, Carol, Jared Will. We were talking about during that afternoon game. Alice asked me which team has more Bulldogs on it because she's a Packers fan. So Packers are loaded with Bulldogs. But she's like, which of these teams has more dogs? Because I don't care about either one of them. And I'm like, it has to be the Packers because Jared Wilson and Thomas Brown is the passing game coordinator for the Patriots too. So there's two dogs that have a chance to win a ring with New England. So there you go. Do I like them? See, now this is interesting. Do you like Georgia's current offensive and defensive coordinators? This is an interesting question because I mentioned earlier in the stream that getting ready for all of this weather that we were seeing, well, I got that guy. I went shopping and I'm like, I'm going to go get some fun stuff. I'm going to cook. We talked about that earlier. And the guy who had ran into me before in the store, my local store here, he's like, I know you from the podcast. I'm like, yeah. So I ran into him again and he asked me the exact same question. How do I feel about, he started with Bobo, but he was talking about both of them. And I said, well, it's all in how you want to look at it, I think, because if you look at the offense that Georgia runs and the way they run it, it's the same as it was in 21 and 22. Same offense, same percentage of plays being called. The difference is, do you want to argue how it makes you feel, or do you want to argue the results? And there are arguments to be had in both places. So when it comes to Mike Bobo, the thing I'll say about him is I agree with Kirby Smart in that what Kirby wants to do, Mike is really good at doing that. Kirby's the one who hires them. Kirby's the one who dictates the game plan. Kirby's the one who sets the direction for the program in terms of this is how we will play complementary ball. And Mike meets every one of those checks. Like he checks every one of those boxes. And just to put a finer edge on that, Todd Monken told Kirby Smart to hire Mike Bobo. With all that said, just being a sports fan, there are times where philosophically I differ from Kirby Smart and by extension, Mike Bobo, in that I wish there would be a different execution or a different play call in certain situations. The majority of the time, I am right on board with them. But there are instances where I'm like, why didn't we do this? I would rather have seen us do X, right? Now, even that requires further inspection, though, because if I go back and rewatch the game and I'm like, this was that moment I wish X had happened, you can see where the thing I wanted to happen, I wanted a receiver deeper on a route, or I wanted them to look at a certain player. If I go back and look, there are times where that's exactly what happened on the play that was called. They had a guy deep. They had a guy that I wanted to get the ball in a route where I thought maybe he could have gotten the ball. And that brings us back to Gunnar Stockton and his execution, which must improve if Georgia's going to be elite the way we want them to be in 26. So, do I like Bobo? I think Bobo is fine for what Georgia does. I think he's good. I can't point to anybody else in the country that I would say, man, I hands down want that guy instead. So I don't know if you want to say that means I love him or I hate him or whatever, but that's just how I view it. As far as Schumann is concerned, I am fine with Glenn Schumann. I think Glenn Schumann is a wonderful, he has a good eye for talent. I think he's a wonderful teacher of the game. I know and respect his depth of knowledge about scheme and what he wants to do. And just like Bobo, he is under the reins of Kirby Smart. So he's not going to do anything Kirby doesn't want him to do. And if you look at how Georgia played the first half of this year, the thing that hindered Glenn more than anything else is the same thing that we talked about earlier with the pass rush or with the defensive backs or any of those things. Those young players had to grow up, get better, and improve. And once they did, the way they used those players in their schemes helped them look like a better defense by the time they were playing in the SEC championship game. A lot more single coverage, a lot more pass rush. Again, they finished fourth against the run. Yeah, so I like Glenn Schumann just fine. So there's a lot to be said for stability. And at the end of the day, the position that Kirby puts his coordinators in is as big a deal as the person you have calling the plays. Ultimately, it all sits at the feet of Kirby Smart anyway. So I've never been somebody to second guess play calling because I haven't watched the tape. I'm not in the film room. I'm not devoting, 60, 80 hours of my week to getting it right. That's what they're doing. And they're doing it at the direction of Kirby Smart, who I have long ago decided that I trusted to operate this program. So I'm not, picking or not complaining about every snap, every play, anything like that. I'm trying to look at the bigger picture, see what they're doing schematically over the course of the season and see the bigger picture. So yeah, I'm fine with both of them. And I can't point to anybody else that I would want them to go get. Long-winded answer, but I'm just trying to be thorough in explaining it there. So I hope that worked out for you. I am behind on the chat. Y'all give me a second. I'm going to jump in here and see what I can catch up with. All right, let's see. Holy cow, I am behind. Whoa. All right. Let's see. There's Bandit. I saw those. There's Tim. Got that one. Travman, there's your question, Travman. I hope that answered it, friend. Kim, good to see you. Happy you jumped in here. Awesome. Here's a question from Bandit. Let's see. What do we got? Do you think UGA should have gone after Damon Wilson? Aha. I posted this as a poll on the YouTube community wall and said, would you want him to come back as a Georgia fan? And overwhelmingly, it was something like 3-1. People wanted him to come back. Now, you ask me if I thought they should have gone after him. Yeah, they have suggested it. So there's two things. It was never going to happen. So I think I'm pretty safe in saying it was never going to happen because of the philosophy of Kirby Smart. Now, do I believe that you should make your team better if you possibly can? Then yeah, I as a football player, if this was fantasy football, which I don't play, then yeah, go get them, whatever. So a good player that can help your team, for sure, you go get that guy. But that's not the situation. And again, I just don't think it was ever on the table that he was going to come back to Georgia, which is why I posed that question in the first place. I just wondered what the rest of Dog Nation thought, because I just never thought that was going to be a thing that was going to happen. Yeah, Tim, I agree with you about Bobo. And here's the other thing. He's a damn good dog. And Tim, I don't know if you've heard me say this, but I've said it a lot on the channel here. I'm sitting here right now looking at my diploma from the University of Georgia. Bobo, Kirby Smart, Muschamp, they were all at Georgia when I was at Georgia. More than one occasion, I was on the bus with Bobo late afternoons on the South Loop. Okay? Listen, they love Georgia the way I do. So I never question whether or not they're doing what they think is best for the university and the football program. Now, they might not get it right. Again, you're coaching young men out there. It's on them to make the plays, players win games, so on and so forth. But never do I doubt that they're not working hard enough. Never do I doubt that they're not trying to be as innovative as possible. Never do I doubt that they are not doing everything that they can to make Georgia football successful. So we can talk about play call or whatever. But as far as them at the university, I know how they feel about it, and I'm happy that they feel that way as coaches, honestly. All right, two things here, Steele. Two things here. One, there's only one portal. That's it. The roster's set. So you don't have to worry about losing anybody after spring practice. So how do I think they did? Overall, I think Georgia did exactly what they needed to do in the portal this year. They approached it like they always do, with a strategy. They went in there and got the guys that they thought would help them. And I absolutely believe that they showed it was as much about what Georgia didn't do in the portal as it was what they did do. They got players at positions of need, but they were not going to overspend for anybody. And they really like what they have. They focused on retention of the roster that just went 12-2 with the youngest team that Kirby Smart's ever fielded at the University of Georgia. So I think they did fine in the portal. Let me take a look here at I believe I saw I can't find it right now. Wait a minute. Where did it go? There it is. I hope he's still in here. Ken, my buddy Ken, watching over on TikTok. Good to see you, buddy. Go Pack Go. I don't think. Yep, I can't. Yep, okay. I'm still figuring it out, Ken. I don't know when you jumped in here, but I'm streaming on multiple platforms tonight for the first time because it's an experiment of sorts. So I hope everything looks right over there on TikTok. I hope it's looking good. It's good to have you in here, buddy. Man, it's better than that. It's great to have you in here. So if you're still here, go Pack Go. You're exactly right. You know Alice is a big Packers fan, so good to see you, friend. That's over on TikTok. Man, that's my buddy Ken. That's awesome. Let's see. Yeah, everybody wants to pick on Mike Bandit. Absolutely. And it's so crazy because I see people out here like, we have to get Monken back. He's not coming back. I'm not, listen, this is more of a philosophy than anything. Don't look in the rear view. Look forward. Okay. And I know Bobo's a guy who's been here before, but he was never here under Kirby. So it's a new thing. So you can't look back. You can't wish for what happened before. You got to move forward and get it done in the future. So Monken's not coming back. People, you're just wasting your breath and the energy it takes to type that. You know what I mean? People don't like change, and I get that. Yeah, Governor's right. 21 and 22, those rosters, you're just not going to see those rosters again in college football the way you were able to stack talent. And that's why comparing what Alabama did for the last 17 years to what Georgia is attempting to do over the last 9 or 10, however you want to frame it, it's not the same thing. It's not the same sport. You can't compare the two. So I think it's a little disingenuous to do that because you're right. You can't build depth the way you used to be able to do in the SEC. That's where I'm at there. Bear with me. I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss these bad boys over here, these chats. I appreciate y'all chatting me up. That's cool. That's right. That's right. Bobo, again, Governors, that's exactly right. You dedicate yourself to the university. I respect that for sure. I respect that. You guys are like supporting me, making me feel like I know my audience. I appreciate that. Let's see. Who do you think has the biggest get? And I see Governor answered this here too. So Trav, I appreciate the question. Who is the biggest get Georgia got in the portal? And it's clearly Amaris Williams. And it's not just because it's a position of need. That's like the cherry on the top. Amaris Williams was a guy who was one of the best portal additions, regardless of position, across the country. And we're talking about a guy who was a high 4-star, a 5-star kid coming out of high school. He absolutely has the physical abilities to do what Georgia needs him to do. And he provides a little bit extra in terms of twitch and natural burst as a pass rusher off the edge. So he is a guy that can totally play 3 downs if you choose to have him do that. But I, again, as I mentioned before, see him as a rotational piece right there. And it's going to give flexibility in packages of how they put them on the field with Gabe Harris and Q. And it gives you depth because you've got the young guys that are coming along, like Isaiah Gibson, Akinabon, who are going to be those dudes out on the edge too, who are improving and coming right along. Okay. So you're going to be able to roll guys at that edge position, which changes everything because there's nothing that's harder in the game of football than rushing the passer, especially if you are playing a team that demands that you respect the run game because you have to transition from run to pass mid rush. It is just physically taxing. And if you've as many bodies as you can have that can do that effectively, you were just that much better off. So you've got Gabe Harris, you've got Q, you've got Gibson, Akinabon. Now you've got Williams right there. Plus, like I said, they're going to roll Zay down from the linebacker position and use him in specialty situations as a pass rusher too. This is the kind of thing that he can play 3 downs, but he's not going to have to. So when he's in the game, I would expect to see explosive plays, impactful plays from him and everybody else, because you shouldn't be as worn down as you would have been otherwise. And that's, again, we're not even talking about the interior defensive line guys that are still there, like McLeod and Griffin and those guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how it looks, but man, I'm excited to see it. That's for sure. For sure. Excuse me. And yes, I see this. I don't think it's going to show up on my end here, but Carol has now been a member of the channel here on YouTube for a year. Carol, you are among the very first who decided to support the channel in that way, and I want you to know how much I appreciate that, and I appreciate what you guys do for me when we're not here on the home channel. When we're bouncing over to visit other streams or I'm invited to come talk to other people, I really appreciate that you guys come over there and hang out and show up in those conversations as well, because the difference about what we do here really over anyone else I have witnessed is that when we talk about a community over here on the channel, that's what it is. Like, you know, we ask about each other's families, how our lives are going, and then you guys show support around the ecosystem. And I really appreciate that, Carol. So hat tip to you, friend. Hat tip to you. I really appreciate it. Let's see. Oh, Tim, I appreciate that. I appreciate the question. First off, so, hey, thanks for that. He's like, how do I subscribe to your premium channel? All you have to do, see the QR code right here. You can scan that. And I'll take you right to the page where you can get a discount code to lock in a cheaper price if you want to do that. Or in the description box on the video here on YouTube, you can click into that and it will take you to that same place. So if that's something you want to do, first off, just know how much I appreciate that. And if it's not, that's okay too. But being a member of those channels does give you, you know, other options. So if that's something you're interested in, especially here in the off season, I am really working hard to crank up the production of content over on that avenue. So, you know, the free podcast is out here. It will be here. It's not going anywhere. But I did want to offer something extra for people who were interested. And that's what How About Them Dogs Plus is. So we tried to take a really deep dive into things over there. And I appreciate your interest. So yeah, you can see it on the crawl here. It'll tell you how to do that, or just click the scan me there for your QR code with your phone. It'll take you right to the page and you can check it out. Let's see. What else we got? What else we got? Oh yeah. And I see you guys are talking about Chris Cole. I haven't even really talked about the linebackers, which is crazy because last year I spent, man, I don't know, it felt like 3 months just talking about the linebackers all the time because I was so excited about that room and what it was going to look like over the next couple of years. So it's one of those things where it's Chris Cole is another guy that this is now year 3 in 2026. And the thing about Chris is he's been so good at whatever Georgia has needed him to do so far that there's still room for him to grow. And year 2 to 3 could be just a gigantic jump for him. Like it could be Jalen Walker like, you know, think about how many times you saw Jalen line up at middle linebacker, for Georgia. He did it, but not often. And he still won a Butkus Award. And Chris Cole has the ability to be that kind of impact player for Georgia this year. And year 2 to 3, just like we saw with CJ Allen this year, going from year 2 to 3, you really see these guys settle in and own the game. And Chris Cole could do that for Georgia this year, alongside Raylan Wilson, who just, man, the ceiling is super high for him as well. Now heading into year 4. And, there are playmakers all over that middle linebacker room. Justin Williams, whom we haven't even talked about, is a guy that was the number 1 player in the country at his position when he got to Georgia and has done nothing but make plays on the field at Georgia. So that linebacker room is just sick. And those dudes, it's like, how can we get them all on the field so they can make plays for us? When you start to look at it in totality, that defensive unit for Georgia is something else. And I don't want to, and I talked about this on the podcast a couple weeks ago. Like, I'm trying my best to not get out over my skis and get too excited. But when I start to think about this team, I'm like, man alive, all this youth that they had to deal with in 25 is now grown up, and they've got 14 games under their belt, and they're coming into this season chomping at the bit, so the ceiling again, if the offensive tackle thing doesn't bite them and Gunner can just be a little bit more consistent in terms of his big play weeks, 26 should be a lot of fun for us Georgia Bulldogs. That's what I'll say about that. Again, I'm trying not to oversell it, but man, I'm excited. Very excited about it. Oh yeah, Carol's talking about Ellis. The autocorrect got you there, Carol. It took me a second to figure out what was going on there. But yes, Elias Williams, I said Ellis. Elias Williams is going to be great for Georgia. And to hear Coach Hartley talk about him at the Sugar Bowl, how they're going to use him. I mean, he's 6'7" and he's like 260 pounds, 265, something like that back in, early January. He could easily, by the time he finishes up at Georgia, be 280. I don't think he's ever going to be like Darnell and get up to 300 pounds, but I mean, absolute mismatch. Anywhere you put him on the field as an inline blocker, he can be dominant. You flex him out and he can just moss defenders. It seems unfair. Now, you're like, well, we should throw the ball to him every time. Okay, fair. But the reason, take Brock Bowers as the example, the reason they threw the ball to him all the time was because he showed that when he had the ball, he put it in the end zone. Like, he delivered time and time again. And when you do that, the ball comes your way. So if Elias can do that, if he shows that he's got that sort of impact, then he's going to get the football. And the possibility is certainly there. He certainly has the skill set to make it happen. Okay, here we go. Trav coming with another good question. Do you think Zion Branch and Rashawn Dinkins will be starting safeties next season? No, sir. I think KJ Bolden is going to be your starting safety. I think Khalil Barnes will start opposite Bolden. I think Zion will get run just like he did this year. But if all things are equal, I think Khalil Barnes is a guy that is going to be your starter back there alongside KJ. And then Rashawn Dinkins, I think, is going to be your starter at star, is what's going to happen there. And man, I'm looking forward to that. And I said it going into this year. If the star position is right for Georgia in this defense, then Georgia is nasty. And Dinkins has the ability to be that dude for Georgia. So he's given off, to me, he gives me big Bullard vibes, like in how he plays the game. So I am very excited to see Rashawn Dinkins at star for Georgia. And yeah, that's right, Tim. We do have a really good 26 class for sure. For sure. Well, there aren't many people out there, Governor, that are have the explosive capabilities of a Zachariah Branch. But there are players on the Georgia roster at wide receiver who can make plays for Georgia like that. Again, just because we haven't seen them yet doesn't mean they're not that guy. And I've seen them, up close, when you see Talon, when you see CJ Wiley, they're not slot guys like Zach was, but they are guys that absolutely can make plays for you. And then you've got the young man, Ryan Mosley, looks like he's physically ready to go right now. Tyler Williams, Blackshear, these guys are all players. Now, you've got players like Sokovie White-Helton, who I still believe is going to be really nice for Georgia, primarily out of the slot. And London might have an opportunity to bump down into the slot a little bit more, and that will be a matchup that Georgia will win time and time again too if that happens. So I think there are plays there where Georgia can be explosive, but that, again, to me, comes back to obviously everything starts with the offensive line. We expect they're going to be able to run the football. Gunner has to be just more consistent in how he delivers those balls down the field for the big plays and the opportunities when they present themselves. And even when they don't, even when the picture is not crystal clear, Gunner's going to have to say, you know what, I trust my guy, and put it up there. Apologies, y'all. Talking myself into a dry throat. Man. All right. So there is nobody on the roster like Zach Branch. But then again, there aren't many across the country like Zach Branch. So I think we have to be careful with that comparison, if you know what I mean. Because, you know, it's like there's not another Brock Bowers. You know what I mean? See, now this is fun. Man, how do y'all feel about AI? Because it can be a useful tool, especially if you're not using it like Google, like if you actually know how to use it. Like, it can be a useful tool. I mean, obviously, I'm not making any big bets on it, but it is fun, and I appreciate you sharing that. At this point, I can believe anything in college football. I can. And here's the other thing that I think we need to do away with. Well, there's a bunch of things, but one of the first things I think we ought to do away with, and it's hard for those of us that have been watching college football for a long time. I think the argument about which conference is best, I think that's got to go away. Like, people want to argue about it, but then again, people just want to argue. In the new world of college football, and everybody's tried to tell us, and now the results are bearing it out, you just cannot hang your hat on any one idea. Like, this conference is clearly dominant. This team is clearly dominant, because the last 3 years tell us so. I mean, it happens that the Big Ten has the last 3 national champions, but each one of those situations was different in how it happened and how those teams got there. And before that, you had Georgia winning consecutive titles. And yes, they were in the NIL era, but those rosters were built prior, and everybody was still figuring it out. So those were the last vestiges of the college football that Nick Saban knew, right? That most of us grew up with. And in this new world, I mean, and it's part of the reason, if I'm being completely honest with you, that I really don't enjoy the NFL anymore. But the way the teams change up so much, and the way one team can be, you know, win 12 games one year and then win 4 the next year, and it's because of player movement, and it has nothing to do with the players. Whatever. Everybody's trying to get by the best they can. Change is never easy. And the same thing goes in terms of sports. You get used to teams being good or not good, and then you're like, well, okay. But see, here's the thing. On one hand, people will say that's exactly why I love the NFL, and that's why I want the college game to do this, is because now I don't know who's going to win, and different teams can show up and do great. That's fine. But at the same time, and it's not the same problem, when I watch the NFL, because they pay their players so much, because it is such a business before it is a game, and again, I'm not throwing rocks at it, that's just what it is, they can't practice. So when I watch the games, I'm like, this is awful. Like, these teams can't tackle. These teams are nothing like the 80s and 90s NFL I grew up watching. And I'm like, you're supposed to be the best players in the world, and yet you're playing this game poorly. It's just that you're still being compensated for playing it at a diminished level because a rising tide lifts all boats. Everybody's getting paid. But the product is not what I grew up with. So when I watch the NFL, I expect them to be like the best. But I don't see that. And so I get depressed. Not depressed, but I'm like, if you're not going to play the game right, I'd rather watch the kids in college make these mistakes. Certainly don't want to pay whatever the NFL's charging to go to NFL games to watch them make these mistakes. So I don't know. Maybe that's just me being too hard on the sport. Oh, this is interesting. Not a UGA question, but is it wrong I still don't view Indiana as a team that will be a constant football power? No. And I say no because it's philosophy. And Bandit, you know this. You've watched my stuff here on the channel. There are two philosophies if we take a 30,000 foot view, which is you play hard in the portal, and then there's the philosophy where you play hard in the high school game. But I think we're still melding these things together. Indiana's recruiting fine. They had to get the thing floating, and now they're recruiting, and Cignetti is a good talent evaluator. So, do I believe that they're going to be a constant power in the Big Ten? I can't say that I think that they will be. But then again, I don't know how many teams you can point to across the country and say that they are a consistent power. I mean, you're looking at 8 teams, maybe 10. How they get it done is varying wildly at this point. And I think we won't know the answer to that until we have the ability to look back at it and see the results. So no, I don't think you're wrong for questioning whether or not they can do it. It's just one of those things where I don't think any of us know. Philosophically, I lean toward the high school version. We will see. Texas Tech is doing what they're doing. Oregon's spending a lot of money. Texas spends a lot of money every year. Still don't have anything to show for it. We'll see. This year feels like the year they're pushing everything to the center, even more so than they have in the past out in Texas. If they don't win something this year, I mean, how long do you keep doing that? The way the donors are being asked to give money these days, and then it starts over brand new every year, I just don't know how many of them out there that are going to continue to do that. There will be a few, but on the whole, I just don't see that as a sustainable measure. But when you look at who should do well in the new world, you look at a Michigan, they should do well. There's a huge alumni base. They have the ability to go to businesses owned by those alumni bases or members of that alumni, and ask for these big donations. Michigan's a team that should do really well. But there's no reason that Georgia can't ask the same thing. I don't know that they have quite as many options as, say, a Michigan has, but they have options. So it'll be interesting to see what they do with it as they move forward. And And yeah, Trav, I don't think there is one dominant conference anymore. I do believe still that the SEC is top to bottom the deepest conference in college football. But the top of the Big Ten can play with anybody. You know, I don't have any question about that. I've said that all year. You know, pick whoever the top is, Indiana, Ohio State, whoever it is, they could come and play whoever was at the top of the SEC, Georgia, Alabama, Ole Miss, right, and have very real chance to beat them. So yeah, I don't know that. That's why I say I think we should give up on the whole conference argument thing. People like to argue, but that's something I think we should let go of. Just my opinion. Not that that matters. Yeah, I'm with you, Tim. I mean, I watch the NFL because I love football, but I am not at all invested in it. Not at all. I just want to see the game played at a high level. That's all. So, you know, the best teams in college football, I can appreciate Indiana because they played the game at a high level. I don't care how. I don't care that they're old. I don't care that they did it through the transfer portal. They played the game at a high level. They didn't beat themselves. They executed better most weeks than their opponents did. Man, that's good football to watch. Georgia, same thing, 22. They looked like, man, I'm like, that's fun to watch. That is a fun team to watch. So that's all I care about. I just want to see the game played well because I love the game, right? That's where I come down on that. Oh, let's see. And this is a good point, governors. This is a good point. Enjoy Kirby while we're here. Again, I was talking to that guy who tracked me down in the store the other day. It's, you know, he was asking how long is he going to be here? I don't know. We're 10 years in, and if you think you're going to get 10 more, then that's probably on the outskirts of what's going to happen. So enjoy Georgia being the way they are, because it is not the kind of thing that is going to last forever. I am old enough to verify that for you, friends. You know, again, I was in the stands in the 90s. You know, I was a student in the late 90s. We're talking, you know, Ragoff. I saw Dooley. I went to games when Dooley was there. I mean, I've been in the stands for Dooley, Goff, Donnan, Richt, season ticket holder when Richt was there. And I've been covering Georgia, you know, as a professional the entire time Kirby Smart's been there. And it's just, you know, you better appreciate it while it's here. Because again, if we're talking about good football, what Georgia does, and the reason I don't have a lot of patience for people who want to argue about programs, like which program is the best. All you have to do is look at the results, and Georgia has the results under Kirby Smart because they play good football the majority of the time. And if they're not perfect, Georgia fans tend to lose their mind these days. And I'm like, y'all got to chill out, okay? Just take a deep breath, because these dudes they're young men, and they make mistakes just like everybody else. But what Georgia has, top to bottom, is just infinitely better than more than half of the teams in college football right now, and way better than most. So just my opinion. What did I miss? Carol had something? Oh, yeah, that's true, Carol. We'll see what Indiana can do. They're going to have their opportunity to show us what's up. They're going to have their opportunities, and I'll be here to watch it. Well, y'all, man, we've been in here for a while, haven't we? Yeah, almost 2 hours. Cool. And it's still not 8 o'clock, so I think that was cool. We got in here before it was too late and got to hang out for a while. We can hang out for just a few more minutes, take it to the top of the hour, you know, as long as you guys have stuff you want to discuss. But I don't know. We'll see. We'll see how this is going. Again, if you happen to be watching over on TikTok or Facebook or any of those things, and you haven't come over and subscribed to the channel here on YouTube, I would really appreciate that, because YouTube is where everything starts for us. everything we bust everything out over here, and then from here it makes its way out to these other platforms. But if you enjoy this kind of conversation, that's what we do over YouTube all the time. And remember, it costs you nothing, and it helps me so much because it just helps more people find the channel. We can grow the community. We can then produce more stuff that you guys enjoy. So again, cost you nothing. Come on over, hit that subscribe button. I would really appreciate it. And hopefully I can, produce enough content that's cool enough that you will stick around for a little while, but at least give us a shot. Come on over and hit that sub button. Let us know what's up. And if you haven't, I appreciate everyone that has hit the thumbs up button. I always say it's not your job to hit the like button. It's my job to earn it. So if y'all are having fun, if I've done a good job, if you don't mind, I'd appreciate you hitting the thumbs up button, because again, it tells everybody what we're doing over here and helps new dog fans find us. And I really appreciate that. As we head into the off season here, they're going to be, everything as far as I know is going to keep rolling along here on the channel. So the weekly podcasts, breaking news, updates, videos, stuff like that, the shorter form videos, plus all the stuff, the short form for socials and all that. Then there's always the option for the private podcast if you're interested in something like that. But I am considering this kind of thing more regularly. So at least once a week, come on and do a Q&A or a hangout kind of thing. And the feedback that you guys have and leave for this stream will go a long way in helping me decide whether or not that's worth it, right? So, because, my kiddos, y'all may have heard them. They're here. I love hanging out with them because I'm a dad first. But they understand that YouTube is fun and that I enjoy doing this. So, it's just, if you guys enjoy it, I want to do it with you. If you don't, then I don't want to do something, just to hang out by myself. So let me know. Drop a comment below and let me know. Because again, I appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys telling people too. I posted something recently, and essentially I was just saying, man, I cannot believe that people see me out and they'll stop and say hello and introduce themselves and tell me that they watch the show. Every time I hear that or run into someone, I'm just absolutely floored. Like, I can't believe it. And I'm just so grateful that all of you choose to take the time and sit in with us for a little while, because the only thing that makes this fun is the fact and worthwhile to make you show up and keep doing it is because I get to meet and talk to you people. And I appreciate that. It's just something that's really special, because since COVID, man, it's weird. 2020, in a lot of ways, I don't miss the seclusion of COVID, honestly, because I got to spend so much time with my little children, and I love that. But it's just not the same since then. Moving forward, everything is different. And when you run into people out in the real world, it's really cool when people are interested enough and brave enough to come up and say hello, because it lets you know that you're not alone, and that's a really cool thing. I've had some cool experiences, and those wouldn't have happened if it weren't for people who chose to watch or share the stream or any of that. And man, I appreciate that. So whether you do anything other than show up and watch and subscribe to the channel, you don't have to do anything else. But man, just know that if you share the videos around, if you tell people to check me out, dude, it's just so cool. And I need to be better. I'm pretty good at talking, but I need to be better at being able to express how much I appreciate it. Cause that's a cool thing, man. That's a really cool thing. This is perfect right here, because this is true. And I try to remind people this all the time, Tim. Nobody wants to win as much as these players and coaches do. Nobody. And I think sometimes we forget that. And the audience, when I talk about it, I never know for sure whether or not people are throwing rocks at their screens when I say it or whether they agree with me. But this is the kind of thing where, man, I love Georgia. Okay. Again, I've been a Bulldog since I could stand up, and I'm a graduate of the university. It has been a part of my professional life for 25 years. Listen, I love it. Okay. I don't live far from campus. I'm dog through and through. But with that said, I'm also not, I haven't lifted one weight. I haven't pushed one sled. I have not spent one evening in a film room with a coach. Okay. So I cannot, in good faith, act like this game, this season means more to me than it does to any of those people. And I understand they're compensated these days. That wasn't always the case. So these people do it because it is who they are, just like I do what I do because it is who I am. And I know that it's important to us as fans, not diminishing that. But to draw a parallel between the two, I think you're going a little bit far there. You know what I'm saying? So always keep it in perspective. And remember that if you love Georgia, and this is how I try to view it, if I love Georgia, I want my children to enjoy Georgia too, because I want them to enjoy being with me. So I'm not going to come out here and act some kind of fool and make it a bad experience for my children, because I want them to feel safe and comfortable and happy when they're with me. And if we win, I want us to be happy together. And if the dogs lose, I want to be like, yeah, girls, that happens. It's part of competition. It's part of life. And then here's how you try to get better. And I try to teach from it, That's what I do. I just think I think that's a healthy way to view it. So, enjoy the games. Just don't make yourself unhappy because of it, because it's not worth that. You know what I mean? It's not worth that. Let's see. What are we doing? What is this, Bandit? What's going on? Can you make the Q&As on Friday or Saturday nights? Because I have to get up every morning at 2 a.m. Good to know. I appreciate that, and I will take it under advisement. Thank you. Because I don't have a schedule set. So, and here's the thing, y'all can help me, Bandit, if you listen to or watch a bunch of other stuff, because I've said multiple times here on the channel, especially around the podcast, I support all the other creators if they're out there doing their thing, sharing their voice, right? I am here for it. But I don't often listen to a lot of the beat writers or the local Georgia podcasters, because I don't want my stuff, I don't want their stuff to bleed into my stuff. And I don't want to say something that maybe I heard somebody else say, because I don't want to have there be any sort of confusion about whether or not I'm just saying what somebody else is saying, because that A, defeats the purpose of me showing up here, and B, I'm not trying to do that with anybody. I'm not trying to create friction, man. I'm all for it. Go do your thing, right? So, if there are a lot of other streams on Fridays or Saturdays that y'all know about, or any night, I'd appreciate you sharing that information with me, because I subscribe to most of them, but I don't have the opportunity to watch them like that. So if they're out there doing shows on those nights, I'd appreciate you letting me know, so I'm not just running into or stepping on somebody else's broadcast, because that's not good for any of us, right? It's not good for the viewer, because now you got to choose. It's not good for each of us as creators. You know what I mean? So I don't know. If you have information like that, I'd love to hear it, because I just don't have it. But yes, Bandit, I will take that into consideration for sure. For sure. And Carol, you're exactly right. We are close. We're getting there. We are close. So, again, there's videos out there. If you know people who like the dogs and you don't see them in the chat here, share some of my videos with them. The recap video, any of the things, and see if they like what we do over here. Maybe we can get them to come and check us out on a live stream or something. That'd be cool. Man, Enrique, appreciate that, bro. I appreciate that. And I hope that you enjoyed the new pods over on the How About Them Dogs Casts Plus. How about them Dogs Plus? I just uploaded another one today, so I hope you're checking those out, Enrique. As a member of that club, I appreciate your support, friend. Ooh, here we go. This is good. I like this. Angela wants to know, do you think it hurts the SEC playing non-conference games now that it remains at 12 spots? Man, that's a good question. And here's the thing. I think I'm pretty much on board with everybody else in that, yeah, I think it will, because you've got half the league now that are going to have one more loss. So if you're cheering for the SEC to fill those slots, then obviously the math is not in our favor there. And as long as this committee continues to only value what number shows up in the loss column, then this puts the SEC at a disadvantage. The thing is, and it's interesting because we're not going to know, we have short-term snapshots about how it's working out for the SEC so far, and people would say it's not good. But as this ninth game comes on board, that increases the inventory for the television broadcasts, which is what's driving all of this. So I would hope that Sankey has worked it to the point where moving forward, the revenue that is generated by this ninth game is going to benefit every SEC school in that they're going to make more money, and that's going to bring more money into the programs, so on and so forth. If he just gave it all away for a ninth game, there is no revenue increase, and you're not getting as many teams in the playoff every year, then clearly you're going to have to look at that and go, man, that was a bad deal. Why did the SEC do that? They caved and capitulated to a peer pressure. And now those very peers are going, not only are you playing 9 games and an extra Power 4 game, we are going to reverse our tough games and go back to just playing whomever, right? And the conference is still not going to be any better, and we're not going to challenge ourselves outside the conference. So if you're having a conference discussion here, you have to say that it doesn't bode well for the SEC right now, and it will hurt them. But as a college football fan, I love the ninth game because it's one more quality game I get to watch. I love the fact that they're having to schedule a Power 4 team because it's one more quality game that I get to watch. And so I am moving down the funnel to where I am less and less and less of an SEC fan. Not that I ever was a big one in terms of how they perform against everybody else, but I am way down the funnel in that if it's not Georgia, I don't care. You know what I mean? So like, I want Georgia to handle their conference slate. I want Georgia to beat their out of conference opponent, and I want Georgia to make it to the college football playoff. So that's a great question, Angela. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Ooh. See, Bandit agrees with you. See, yep, you're right there. Sorry, it took me a minute to get to it, but y'all are right there. Hey, man. Cool. Thanks, Bandit. I appreciate that, friend. I appreciate that. And I do hope that what I do over here is different than what everybody else does. I know that it's different from what a lot of folks do, but I'm not going to act like I watch everybody's stuff. I don't know for sure. But it's definitely different than any of the pay sites, you know, like the .coms. It's definitely different than what they do. So I appreciate that, friend. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, man. It happens sometimes. The governor got me there. Yeah, it happens. It happens. It's not what I want to do, but sometimes the thing it don't work for me. Hey, cool. Wait a minute. I can't think. My eyes are tricking me. What's that? Is that celebrate? Celebrate emojis. Okay. Yeah, Trav, I appreciate it. Since I subscribed a couple months ago, this is the first one of the live streams I've been able to catch. I plan to rejoin the next one when I see them. We're live every Wednesday, so that one you can count on, unless life has broken us for some reason, right? Busted the schedules. Every Wednesday at 7 is when we're here. And during the season, we do a show on Thursdays with my brother where we talk about all the SEC games. That show's just a whole lot of fun. But Joe got real busy toward the back end of this year, and it was harder to get that one on the schedule. But we try to have a good time over there too. And again, here in the months where we're not in the season, this is what I'm looking at doing. Maybe once, maybe twice, depending on how it's received. We'll come in here and do this each week too, because I think that'd be cool. Because I do enjoy coming and talking dogs, man, for sure. Why did he think it was a good idea? And do I think he should be fired? Well, he's not going to be fired. So that's not going to happen because to a man, the people who are the head coaches and the coordinators, the athletic directors inside the conference, they look at what Sankey's doing and the way he's positioning himself against the Big Ten and the conference against the Big Ten and always fighting for the SEC. They give him very high marks across the board. So he's not going anywhere unless there's some kind of crazy something that happens that none of us can foresee. Now, was it a good idea? As long as I saw you guys say he got tricked. I would agree that he got tricked in that the CFP committee said one thing and did something else. So if they come back and correct course somehow, which I don't know how you would do this, but put more weight on anything other than what numbers in the loss column, and you actually reward teams for playing tough schedules, like there's some real concrete evidence that you did that, then it would be a good thing for the SEC, as well as that boosted revenue that I was talking about from the television contracts, because now you would get more revenue and potentially more teams in the field, because the more teams you have in the field, they have a chance to go win the thing, and that raises revenue for everybody, right? So until the CFP does that, then I think you're looking at a situation where it's going to be the short end of the stick. But there are rumblings, and Ross Dellinger has done good work on this. So if you don't pay attention to him, go ahead and follow him over on X, because that's a good place. Twitter. That's a good place to keep abreast of what's going on. But you've got athletic directors who are looking at what's going on in college football and saying, y'all baited and switched on us. And if we don't get this thing worked out, and they're talking about NIL, portal, and playoff. It's kind of all tied together. So there's a couple of different angles, but just recently the ADs were like, listen, they were talking about portal and things like that. NIL. They're like, look, either you regulate this or we're going to do something different where we can regulate ourselves. So then you would have the Big Ten setting their own regulations for portal and NIL, and you would have the SEC setting their own regulations. And at that point, why would you have anything to do with the NCAA? Because the NCAA doesn't have anything to do with College Football Playoff Committee. So you could just be like, all right, we're done with the NCAA. We're starting our own thing. And oh, by the way, we're going to restructure this deal with the College Football Playoff Committee. You think there's been like earthquakes and stuff going on in college football so far. If any of that were to start to really happen, and they're wandering in that direction right now, you would really see tumult in college football like we've never seen before. And that's saying something. Ooh, sorry. So there is a lot going on. So no. I don't think Sankey's going to be fired. But I do know that there are a lot of expensive decisions that are going to have to be made soon, really soon. I mean, because, and I've got a video I haven't even made yet about, and you may have seen about this, you know, in was it October? I think it was October. The thing passed where they could put logos on the field. And then all of a sudden, boom, everybody had a logo on the field. Ole Miss was the first game Georgia had a logo on the field for a corporate sponsor. And then just this week, you saw where they approved officially that you can put patches on jerseys. I told you back then it was coming. I told you the week of the Mississippi game. I said, get ready. It's going to be here before you know it. College football playoff expansion is going to be here before you know it. And the reason it didn't get expanded this time is because people still don't have their ducks in a row and they're still arguing over different things. These things are going to shake themselves out. This sport is changing. It's going to look different. But we as fans just have to, you know, watch if we want to watch. And if you don't want to watch, that's how it would change. If I'm just being real with you, that's how it changes. If they see that 30 million people aren't going to watch the national championship game, then they're going to change the way they're doing business. But if that doesn't happen, it's not going to change. Now, I'm not telling you to watch football or not watch football. Watch football, but that's the reality. Until they see a drop in viewership, which equals revenue, it's not going to change. Sorry, y'all, man. See, now, Bandit, I don't know that I've ever heard anybody say this was the reason they were an SEC fan. So I think that's a first for me. So thanks for sharing that. All right, wait a minute. Let me get a good look at this one. So with the new conference schedule, what games changed for Georgia? They're still going to play Georgia Tech at the end of the year. That's their Power 4 opponent. So yes, that was part of the mandate. And you're going to lose, I imagine, one of those paycheck games for a conference game. So you've got the 3 annual opponents, which for Georgia are Florida, Auburn, and right now South Carolina. They're supposed to review that every few years, so that could change. So they're going to play Florida, Auburn, and South Carolina every year. And then everybody else is going to rotate through so that you play all the other schools every 4 years, I think it is. Or maybe it's every 2 years. Either way, you play them all quickly. Every 4 years. So you can visit every school. If you go to school for 4 years, you get to play every opponent. So that's how the schedule changes. Georgia's Power 4 opponent is Georgia Tech every year. And then they have, that's 10 games. So now you have 2 games that could be quote unquote paycheck games or out of conference games. The predominant theory is that teams are going to get rid of their hard opponents for those 2 games. So you're not going to get Georgia going to play Ohio State, which currently is still on the schedule coming up here in the next couple of years, a home and away series with Ohio State. We'll see if that sticks. But most schools are going to cancel those and put in a paycheck game. So they don't have to worry about another loss right there because of what we've already been talking about with the college football playoff. So that's what would happen there. Sorry, guys, my voice may be done. I may have to finish up here. Oh, all right, Tim, have a good evening. We'll see you soon. Parts unknown. What does having the patch on the uniform supposed to do for a team? Money. That's all. And I hate it. I've hated it forever. I hated it when hockey did it. I hated it. That soccer players, soccer teams have done it forever. I'm just so old that the only teams that needed to do that were like minor league baseball teams because they literally couldn't get money any other way to pay their players. The thing with what's going on with the NBA, with Major League Baseball, with college football now, is they are trying to squeeze every ounce of ad space and revenue out of everything that they can everywhere. So the beautiful Georgia jerseys are now going to have, it hasn't been announced, okay, but just wait. They're going to do it. I can't, if they don't do it, I, as a Georgia fan, I'm going to tip my hat and say thank you. But they will do it. They'll put a patch on the beautiful red jerseys. Could be Delta, could be Coca-Cola, Home Depot, whatever. You pick one. It's going to be on there soon enough. I don't have any doubt. And it's just a revenue play so they can pay the NIL stuff. I didn't. Delta did it for the college football, for the field. They put a logo on the field. So we'll see what they do. All right, Bandit, you be good, buddy. I'll talk to you later. And that sounds like a pretty good time. We made it past 2 hours. Y'all, thanks for hanging out with me. This was fun. It was done on a whim. Thank you to my beautiful family, my 2 little girls, my beautiful wife, for allowing me to come and hang out with you guys while we're here on ice vacation. And I appreciate you guys helping me out in the chat tonight, because that's what this episode was. It was just come, hey, let's talk ball, and we'll see what you guys have on your mind. So, again, if you enjoyed the show, if you enjoyed hanging out and talking dogs, and we covered Georgia football all year round. There is no off season over here. So, leave me a comment, hit thumbs up below the video. Let me know that you watched it. Let me know that you enjoy it, and it'll help me decide whether or not this is the kind of thing that we should do going forward, because, I had a good time and I appreciate y'all being here with me. Y'all stay safe. If you're out there in the weather, stay safe, stay warm. And even if you're not in the weather, just take care of yourselves, your friends, your family, take care of each other. And we will see you next time. Go Dogs!